All right, guys, good afternoon. So, we are going to start with moral development and aggression. So, we're going to talk about how we develop morality. We're going to specifically talk about the different factors that contribute to morality and the different ways that we conceptualize morality. So, morality is essentially your idea of what's right and what's wrong and what's acceptable and what's not. So, there are a lot of things that can influence that, like our social upbringing, so how society tells us we should be, how our parents are, and our particular beliefs, the different models that we have growing up. So who are people that we look up to and how do they behave morally, because we're likely to copy that behavior. So as we know, as we get older, our moral development evolves and changes over time. So the more positive models that you see, the more people that you see behaving morally, the more inclined you're to do so yourself. And as we get older, our empathy evolves. So the type of empathy that a preschooler experiences is basically they see someone else crying and it makes them uncomfortable. So they want to alleviate that crying because it makes them uncomfortable. When, as we get older and become adolescents, that morality starts to become more sophisticated and that we can actually imagine how the person is experiencing a certain situation and we could be empathetic even with people who are not near us. So maybe in preschool, it could only be the kids who were on the playground with us that we might have felt that we wanted to stop their suffering. But as we become adolescents, we can actually empathize with people who are in different parts of the world than us or who have distinctly different situations than we do. So our empathy and our moral development evolves as we do. So the next type of morality that we're going to talk about two kinds. I want you to really review the book for Gilligan's morality because I don't have a lot of information about it on the PowerPoint, although I'm going to talk about it here. So we're going to start with Kohlberg because that is like a classic theory, and then we're going to talk about how Gilligan's is a little bit different and how it contrasts this idea about how women are raised and socialized. So starting with the first theory of morality, Kohlberg, there are three different stages. So I'm going to talk about those. That first stage is basically stage one, which means that your morality is based on obedience and reward. So this is pre-conventional. Within pre-conventional, they have two stages, stage one and stage two. So pre-conventional means that, and you kind of could think of this about like on a preschool level. So it means that you do things because you either want to be obedient, so you want to follow directions because you don't want to get in trouble, or you want to do things because you get a reward. So you might be nice to a friend because you get stickers for being nice if you're in kindergarten. And you might not scream in class because if so, you might have your pen moved. Okay, like very simplistic thinking. The next one is conventional. So this is when you follow or do something because you want to be respected and you want to follow society's rules. So if I ask you why you don't want to rob a bank, you might say because it's not the right thing to do. Folks shouldn't rob banks. If everybody robbed banks, then no one would trust banks and then we wouldn't have a good society. Okay, so you're trying to follow the rules. You are trying to make sure that everyone follows the rules and you want a lot of cohesion and you want people to stay in line. Okay, post conventional is when you have a certain set of moral values and then you are asking yourself, are those moral values do those moral values line up with the situation? So, for example, you might look at a law and you might ask yourself, is this law just? Does this law represent my understanding of morality? Okay. And then you might decide whether or not to do something based upon that. So, if you need an example, the example could be something like the classic example that I'm going to use here is this one you might have heard before, and I think it's discussed in your book. So, a man tries to raise enough money to get his wife the medicine that she needs to survive. He works hard, he does a GoFundMe, he does all these things, right? But he ends up, he's not able to afford the medication because it's really expensive. However, if she does not have the medication, she will die. So we can decide whether or not the man is going to allow her to die without the medication because he couldn't afford it, or if he's going to steal the medication so that she can live. Now, the question is not whether you choose for her to live, for her to die or live or die. The question is, how do you explain it? So if you explain that he should choose for her to live and take the medicine, and that he's doing this because he wants the reward of her company or her experience, then you're going to be working from the pre-conventional, because basically you're saying he's only doing it so that he can get the reward of her company. Now, if you are saying that he should steal the medicine and he's doing it because he feels like medicine should not be priced so high that certain people can't afford it and then they are left to die. And so I don't think that that law is just. So if that means that I go to jail, I'm still going to do it because according to my code of ethics, it's not right. So do you see how you can engage in the same behavior, but you could be working from a different level of moral reasoning? That's what that means. And you could even go the opposite way. So you could say he's not going to steal the medicine because he wants to be obedient. He doesn't want to go to jail. And then you could say he's not going to steal the medicine because according to his particular view of ethics, everything happens the way that it should. So if she dies, she was meant to die. Make sense? So now we're going to pause there. Okay, and we're going to shift gears. Now we're going to talk about Gilligan's theory of morality. So evidence has indicated that when women are asked these similar questions, they tend to make moral decisions more like this and less like in the way that Kohlberg describes. Some women still do it in that way, and some men still do it in Gilligan's way, but generally these are like on average. So, and you could use both, like you could use whatever you want. I mean, I don't care. But the idea is that this tends to be more common in women. So we're going to shift gears and talk about her particular ideas behind morality. So the first stage is self-oriented. So this is when you do something because it is about your experience. So all you care about is yourself. So this is like a kid, like a toddler, right? A toddler is when they have conversations, they're generally talking to themselves. When they want to eat, like my daughter snuck 2 cookies this morning. She did that for her. She had an enjoyable experience. Okay, she had a great time. So they're worried predominantly about themselves, and their decisions about whether or not to do something has everything to do around the self. So does this make me feel good? Does this not make me feel good, etc.? The second level is other oriented. And if you need like a kind of background to see what I'm saying about this, you'll hear a lot of women, loads of women say that it is their job as a mom, as a wife, as a blah, 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 fill it in, to care about other people and to put other people before themselves. Women will consistently say, now this is on average, so this is not you, that's fabulous, okay? But you will hear a lot of women say that it is more important for other people to be happy and they will sacrifice themselves for the greater good of all right? And then the third one is going to be universally oriented or universal oriented. So what this means is that you recognize that you have to take care of yourself in order to better serve others and that the two are interdependent. So this is this third level of moral reasoning where you also start to take care of yourself. And through doing so, you're able to take care of others. Okay. And you realize that you want to stop the suffering of most people and you want to help people not to suffer unnecessarily. So we use Kohlberg's example about the medication that I just used a second ago about how you can kind of think through this. I'm going to use that same example, but with these principles so that you can see the contrast. Okay. So if you are self-oriented, we could either choose to take the medicine or not take the medicine. It doesn't matter what you choose. It depends on how you explain it. So if I'm going to say I'm going to not take the medicine, I might say I'm not doing that because I don't want to go to jail. That's it. I don't want to get caught. I don't want to have a record. I'm going to worry about myself, right? If I'm other oriented and I'm saying I'm not taking the medicine, well, I don't want to take the medicine because I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt the company. I don't want to hurt my family if I have to go to jail. I don't want to hurt my parents if they find out that I stole something. I don't want to hurt the pharmaceutical company. Do you see what I'm saying? You're thinking about how your actions would affect the well-being of other people. And then finally, universal oriented, or basically you're thinking about yourself and someone else. You might say, I'm not going to take the medicine because I know that it's not going to be the best option for me long term, but also I'm not going to take the medicine because I might go to jail and then no one is going to be there for my children and I have to make sure that I'm there for my kids. And you could even do this vice versa. So you could say I'm going to take the medicine and you could explain it that way too. Okay, so I want you to think about how these two things are different, and then I want you to be able to compare and contrast these different types of morality and how we think about morality.